Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Saccone. I am the Director of Policy here at Disability Rights New Jersey, and I'm also the coordinator for the Protection and Advocacy for Voter Access Program. And we're here to talk about voting. It's your right. In addition, I have my co-presenter, Chris Miller, and I will let him introduce himself right now.
My name is Chris Miller. So happy to be with you today. I'm a voting rights advocate along with Mary's assistant. Reason to vote is your right. Your vote makes a difference, and it's important to be involved in the political process. Reading to vote. Every elected is important. The elected, oh my God, and elect you are important to protect disabilities. The kind of representation will be about as well as local races.
Okay, so as Chris said, voting is really important and there's lots of good reasons to vote. You know, every election counts and it's really important that you get out and vote. But people want to know, well, how do I vote? What is the process? So that's what I'm here to explain to you today. In order to vote, there's only a few qualifications that a person needs to have. First, they need to be 18 years or older. They need to be a United States citizen. They cannot be currently in prison serving a sentence for a felony. And they need to be registered. So those are the 4 criteria. So if you want to know whether you can vote or not, ask yourself each one of these questions. Am I 18 years old? Yes, I'm 53, unfortunately, but that's what I am. So I'm eligible to do that. Am I a United States citizen? Yes. Am I currently in prison serving a sentence for a felony? No. And am I registered? Yes, I am registered. So I am eligible to vote. And every person can ask those four questions and determine how to whether they are eligible to vote. Now, if the answer to one of those questions was, am I registered? And if you said, no, I'm not registered, well, then you can't vote in the upcoming election. But it's really easy to get registered to vote. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can, one, fill out a voter registration application, and you can find those. You can download them from online. A lot of libraries have them. A lot of other places have them. Or you can just go online at https://voter.vrs.nj.gov/register and register to vote online. It's really, really easy. I'm going to go to that website real quickly to show you where you can, how you can do that. Whoops. All right, I will share my screen. And here, this is the New Jersey Elections website, and it's a great tool for finding out any information about voting. But one of the easy things to do is to be registered. So, let me go back. want to make sure I'm in the right section. Okay, so to register to vote, you can go on to this website and you can register to vote there. However, it does help to check to whether you find out whether you are registered to vote beforehand. So I'm going on and I'm going to show you how easy it is to check to see whether you're registered. Because you want, if you're already registered, you don't need to register again. And some people may have registered and they don't realize it because they might have registered through the Motor Vehicle Commission or some other way, and they're already registered. So you go on, you do a voter search, you type in your name, first and last name, and your month and year of birth, and you search. And this comes up saying, I am already registered. So I don't need to register. Very simple, very easy, and a good way to find out if you are registered. So I recommend everybody going and doing this before every election, just because you never know if somehow your registration got mixed up, it's not in there, or whatever. It's really easy, really to do. Now, if you aren't in there, you can go into register to vote. And you can do it online. It's really, really easy. You just click on the online registration and it tells you what you need. If you have a driver's license or a non-driver identification card from Motor Vehicle Commission, you can do that very easily. If you just have a social security number, you can also register online if you have a device that allows you to sign. So if you have a driver's license or a motor vehicle non-driver identification card, you don't need to be able to sign on the device. But if you just have a social security number, you actually have to be able to sign on the device. So you just go in, you get started, you certify that you are these things. Then you go in and you put in your first and last name, your date of birth, your gender, your driver's license number, or your non-driver identification number, your address, and whether you're having assistance doing it. If you do it through the social security number, then you have to be able to sign with your you have to mark on this social security number, and then you have to upload your signature or be able to sign on the device. Very, very simple. But again, if you don't want to do it online, you can just go in and download a form by your county, whichever county you're in. So if you live in Atlantic County, you just go on and you can print out an Atlantic County registration form, fill it out, and then print it out and mail it in. Very, very easy. So it's really, really easy to get registered to vote. So now if you've been to Motor Vehicle Commission and you may have already signed up and it has automatic registration unless you opt out. So a lot of people have registered without necessarily even realizing they registered. But that's why I say, that's why it's good to check your registration before you try to register, because that way, if you don't need to waste your time if you're already registered. The one thing is, for first-time registrants, you will have to show some proof of identification when you go to the polling booth the first time. That is just something like, it doesn't even have to be a photo ID. It can be something like a bill, like a credit card bill, a bank statement, something that shows your address and your name. That's all you need. A utility bill, those are things that will work. So I am going to go back to I'm going to go back to my presentation. All right, so now in order to vote in an election, you need to be registered 21 days before the election here in New Jersey. So that means this upcoming election is November 8th. The deadline to register is October 18th. So you've got about 3 weeks, well, from when we're recording this, but basically you have 3 weeks before the election to register. If you do not register before that deadline, Your registration's still valid, but you just won't be able to vote in that particular election. So I tell people, even if they've missed the registration deadline for that election, go ahead and register, because then you'll be able to vote in the next election. But if you want to vote November 8th for this upcoming election, you need to get registered by October 18th. How do I know if I'm registered? I just showed you. It's really easy. Also, for those of you who don't have a computer, you can also know you're registered if you receive a sample ballot. Everyone who's a registered voter, active voter, receives a sample ballot before every election. So if you get a sample ballot, then that means you're registered. Okay. So how do I vote? Well, there's two ways to vote. You can vote in person or vote by mail. To talk about in-person voting first. And there's two different ways to vote in person. You can go on election day and vote in person, or since 2 years ago or last year, they started with early voting. Last year, I'm sorry, 1 year they've been doing early voting. So there's different rules regarding the two different ways to vote. So I'm going to go through each individual one so you understand the difference between voting in person early and voting in person on election day. First thing to know is if you don't know where your polling place is, you can go on to that website that I was just on, the State of Election, the New Jersey State of Election, Division of Elections website, and you can go in and check for your polling place. All right. Now, when you go to either early or on election day, the polling place must be accessible. And the polling place must have at least one audio machine, so one accessible voting machine. If your polling place is not accessible, please call our office. We have a voter hotline for people with disabilities, 866-493-0023, or you can email me at voterhotline@disabilityrightsnj.org. We can address accessibility issues. We like to know if there's those kinds of issues so that we can contact the Board of Elections for that county so that those polling places are not used and they have fully accessible polling places. Or if they don't have accessible voting machines, we want to make sure that they have those in place. All right, so early voting. This is, they say, a fairly new system here in New Jersey. It's just been enacted as of a year ago. And I can say I did early voting last year, and it was really nice because there were no lines. It was easy. It was close by, and I was able to get it done, and I didn't have to worry about going to trying to make sure I was available on election day, because since I run the voter hotline, it's hard for me to be on election day to get to the polling place. And I know I don't necessarily like vote by mail. I like to be able to just go and vote and be done with it. So early voting worked very well for me. And that's one of the things you should consider when you're thinking about your plan for voting. What works best? Vote by mail, early voting, or voting on election day? Because that's why there's multiple options. So what is early voting? All registered voters can cast their ballots in a 9-day window before the election day on actual voting machines. So it's not voting by mail. You're actually going to use a voting machine, and like you would on election day, in-person election day. For this year, that means the early voting window is from October 29th to November 6th. Polling stations will run from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. There are specific early voting locations in each county, and those early voting locations are not necessarily where your usual polling place is. Okay, you can go on to the Division of Elections website and to find the actual early voting locations for your county, and you can go to any early voting location in your county to vote. You don't have to go to the closest one. If you happen to be in another town that's got an early voting and you're like, oh, let me go run and vote right now, you can go to any particular location as long as it's in your county early voting location. So that's why it makes it easy, because then you don't have to be at your particular polling location. But you need to know where they are. And I say right now, I just went on the website and they are not up yet, but they will be up fairly shortly where those particular polling locations are. As you would if you vote in person on election day, if you need assistance, you can bring a person of your choosing to the booth with you, with the exception of you cannot bring your employer. or a union representative. If you don't have anybody to bring with you and you still need assistance, you can request assistance from the poll workers, and they will give you 2 people to assist you with voting. Each person has to be in a different party. So basically it's a checks on their ability to make sure that your vote is registered the way you want to vote. What if you go and your name's not on the registration list? Well, then you can request a provisional ballot, which may or may not be counted because it's a provisional ballot. It gets separated and not counted until they determine whether there was a mistake on the rolls. Or you can always go to your county court and argue your case before a judge that you were registered, you don't know why you voted, you voted in every election since the beginning of time, and you don't know why your name is suddenly not on the rolls. If the judge rules in your favor, you will be given a regular ballot, but you have to have evidence. It would be a formal hearing with the judge. You have to have evidence that you are eligible to vote. If you do vote provisionally, you can call 1-877-NJ-VOTER to find out if your vote was counted. If not, why it was not. On election, before I get to vote by mail, on election day, you can go and vote, and the hours of voting on election day are 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And you have to go to your assigned polling place on election day to vote. So make sure you know where your polling place is. That will be listed on your sample ballot. So when you get the sample ballot, you can look and that will tell you where your polling location is. If you threw your ballot away, your sample ballot away, and you don't know for sure, again, you can go on the website and get that information. So now what about vote by mail? This is another alternative. Any person can vote by mail. You don't need an excuse. So it used to be called absentee voting, and they decided to change the name when they decided to make it so there was no excuse voting, because it's just a way to vote. If you choose to vote ahead of time and you don't want, some people find it very easy to vote in their home. A couple of years ago, they sent ballots to everybody due to COVID, vote by mail ballots to everybody. They had a huge turnout, a bigger turnout than they've ever had, because it was easy for people. People got their ballots in the mail, they filled them out and they sent them back, or they put them in a drop box. It was so easy, and the numbers reflect that when it's easy to vote, when they make it easy to vote, people do vote. Unfortunately, we don't get ballots anymore. That was a one-time thing for COVID. Now you got to actually request. If you want to do vote by mail, you have to request it. There's a 2-step process. One, you need to complete and return a vote by mail application, and then you need to complete and return a vote by mail ballot. You can get a vote by mail ballot, vote by mail application on the Division of Elections website. And once you complete the application, you can mail the application to the office of the county clerk up to 7 days before the election, or you can return the application in person to the office of the county clerk until 3 p.m. the day before the election. So you have to, you can put it in the mail and they can get it up to 7 days before the election. But if you're getting close to that 7 days, then it's better to just go drop it off at the county clerk's office in person. This is a sample. This is an application for a vote by mail ballot. It's fairly simple to fill out. The one thing I want to note is that you can apply for a mail-in ballot for all future elections until I request otherwise in writing, or for only this particular upcoming election. So for people who like to vote by mail all the time, they don't want to be bothered with filling out applications every single time. It's very easy. You can just mark the all future elections, and then from then on, you will always get a vote by mail ballot without filling out the application. If it's just, I'm going away on vacation, I will be gone the day of the election, but I like to vote in person, then you can just request for only that one particular election. And then you just fill it out, and you have to basically your name, your address. If you need your ballot sent to a different location, then you have to fill out 4. This is for a lot of college students. You write down your permanent address, but you're away at college. then you put in your address here. If it's the same, if you just want to vote by mail ballot, you don't really care, you just want to get the ballot, then you just mark here, same address as section 3. But if you need it because you're going to be away and you need it at a different location, you need to make sure you put the different location there. And then you fill that out and then you sign it. If you have someone who's assisting you, they need to fill out the information here. Authorized messenger, this is kind of a, this is for people who, basically, if you're trying to deliver the application in person, there has to be an authorized messenger to take it to and you can't deliver it. You have to have an authorized messenger to take it to the county clerk to get your vote by mail ballot. And there's 2 requirements. They either have to be a family member or a registered voter in the county to be able to be an authorized messenger. Most people, that's not the case, especially if you're just filling it out and returning it by mail. But that would be if you're getting really close to the election and you need to return it in person, but you physically can't get there, then you have an authorized messenger. So that's basically it. It's really a simple process. Once that county clerk receives your vote by mail application, they will send you the vote by mail ballot. And what I suggest you do is you must follow the directions on the ballot exactly, or your ballot may not be counted. So there are a couple things you need to make sure you sign in the proper locations. You don't sign the ballot, but there is an inner envelope that you need to sign on the outside of that envelope. So you need to make sure you certify where it says to certify. Do not sign the actual ballot. You fill out that ballot, you place the ballot in the ballot envelope, sign the ballot envelope in the signature box, and then put the inner envelope, the ballot envelope, into the mailing envelope. In the mailing envelope, then you put in the mail, or you put it in a drop box, or you return it in person. Now, when does the vote by mail ballot need to be returned? The deadline to return a vote by mail ballot is 8 p.m. on election day at the time polls close. You cannot return your mail-in ballot in person to your polling location. You have to return it in person to the County Board of Elections. You can also return your mail-in ballot in a drop box. Those locations are listed on the Division of Elections website. And that must be done by 8 p.m. on election day. If you return through the mail, the ballot must be postmarked by 8 p.m. on election day and be received by the County Board of Elections on or before November 14th. And if the vote by mail ballot does not have a postmark, it must be received by the Board of Elections within 48 hours. So generally, get it in on election day by 8 p.m. And then it has 6 days to get to the Board of Elections. So you've got some time for the mail, which can be slow, to actually get there. If you requested a vote by mail ballot, but forgot to fill it in, or like, oh, I don't think I can get it back to the Board of Elections in time, I'm worried about mail and whatever, or you lost it, or you just don't want to, you decide you want to go to the polling place on election day, you can still do that. However, if you go to the polling place on election day, if you requested a vote by mail ballot, you will only be allowed to vote by provisional ballot. The reason for that is because you can only vote once. So they have to make sure that your vote by mail ballot does not come back and get counted before they will give you count your provisional ballot. So basically your provisional ballot will not get counted until after that 6 days after the election, when they make sure that your vote by mail ballot did not come back. What if I need help voting? Well, as I said, basically you can have any registered voter can request assistance at any point in the process. As I said, if someone assisted you with a vote by mail application, they must fill out the assister section. The same thing, if they help you with the vote by mail ballot, they will have an assister section. They must fill that out as well. Now, one question for a lot of people with disabilities that they ask me is, can a person vote if I have a guardian? In New Jersey, we have very liberal laws about voting with guardians. Generally, as long as the person has capacity to vote and the guardianship did not specifically revoke that person's ability to vote, then they will be able to vote. And when I generally, what does it mean to have capacity to vote? Generally, my opinion is, and this is of course my opinion, I'm not giving you the legal, it would only be for a judge to decide. But generally, my understanding is, can the person make a choice? That shows that they have capacity to vote. They can actually make a choice and acknowledge, and tell people what their choice was. So that's basically what needs to be determined about being able to vote. Now, they still must meet other requirements, such as being 18 years old, a citizen, and not currently registered, and not currently serving a sentence or felony. So, but voting with even though they have a guardian, they still should be able to vote, unless one, the guardianship took that away, or two, they just have no capacity to vote. And generally, when I think of a person who has no capacity to vote or someone who can't make a choice, usually that's somebody who's probably in a coma or near in a state where they just really have no ability to express their opinions or express their thoughts or express their choices. Now, as I said before, what happens if I have trouble voting, either early voting, vote by mail, or on election day? We have a voting hotline. Generally, you can call our hotline from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Or on election day, the voting hotline is open for the entire time that the election is that the polls are open, which is 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on election day. The number is 866-493-0023. You can also email us at any time at voterhotline@disabilityrightsnj.org. Now I'm going to pass it back over to Chris.
What you can do if you're not registered, you register today and vote to make a difference. If you are registered, vote regularly, help others, help others to get registered to vote. This deadline for registration is November 18th. Make a plan to vote. Determine when you are going, you want to go to vote. You ready? Doing ugly million. I like it. If you want to vote now, yeah, I'll every day. Vote now. I will get early so that you can receive the ballot. And encourage your random family and the world now to get out and vote. Because your vote make a difference. And we have the power to let use it and vote. And more importantly, vote, vote, vote.
Yes, Chris, vote, vote, vote. We have a power to make a difference. People say, oh, well, my vote doesn't count, or my vote won't count. It's not going to matter. you don't, most people don't realize how many times one vote can make a difference. And if you get all the people who didn't vote together and they vote in the last election, they would make a huge difference. So
right,
get out and vote because it really does make a difference. And I say, it's not just the big congressional federal elections that are really important. It's your local election. It's your state elections. They have a much bigger impact on what you do. It's the school board election. You know, if you have children in the school, you want to make sure that the people who are running the school district represent your values. So make sure, as I say, voting is really important at all levels of government. And it's the best way that you can actually have a say in what your government is doing. Now, before I end, I just want to give a little brief background on Disability Rights New Jersey. We are a nonprofit organization. We provide legal and advocacy services to individuals with disabilities throughout the state. We were originally New Jersey's Protection and Advocacy Agency, designated by the governor and incorporated in 1994. And our mission is to preserve the human, civil, and legal rights of persons with disabilities. And you can contact us. On this, as what it said, you can contact us. Our toll-free number is 1-800-922-7233. You can email us at advocate@disabilityrightsnj.org. And you can also visit us online at www.disabilityrightsnj.org or on Facebook at Disability Rights New Jersey, or follow us on Twitter at AdvocateDRNJ. So I want to thank you all for coming today to listen to our presentation. I hope it was informative. If you have questions or you have issues with respect to voting, please contact us on our voter hotline or email me through the voter hotline. Once again, thank you for participating.
thank you. And vote.
And vote.